Okay, welcome. My name is Erik Kort. Most of you will know me or have known me before. I will put a pretty speed in this presentation because we have 1.5 hours and 4 or 5 people who want to present something. So we do it a little bit quicker. And as I don't like open doors, we close it. Okay. I will start again for the one who came in late. My name is Erik Kort. I'm software architect by OXID. Hello, my name is Erik Kort. Welcome. Now you all know my name, I'm sure. Okay, let's start. There are some features I want to show of the current version, which we have released end of last year, the 5.0 and the 4.7. After that, we will have a short presentation of GitHub, which is not in the program because it was a little bit of a surprise for today. And then we'll continue with the high load options, several features of it, and then the performance report. And then we'll finish with some independent opinion about the performance of our shop by the founder of the eCommerce, Wanderzirkus. Okay, why did we change the goals of development a bit with the 5.0, 4.7? We noticed a couple of years ago that our target group of customers were starting to move. We're getting more and more into larger companies, larger websites, and realized that we also need to change something for our shop. We have seen that. Welcome, Joshua. The last guy who was late, his name is Joshua. Public punishment. That's called learning by paying. Even more. Okay. What we see is that we have clients who also work with television advertisements. They get high loads. They have other kind of scenarios which were not so much used a couple of years ago, multi-channel, all that kind of stuff. And our shop had to need to keep up with it. So to have this stuff actually carried on our platform in a reliable way, we needed to change our little pad. And it should be, well, let me put it this way, a bit faster. Not only faster, it needs to be carrying everything what the customers want to have. Before we go a bit to the features and to the high load option, I want to clarify a kind of confusion out there. People ask me still, why do we have now 2 versions, 4.7 and 5.0? Actually, there aren't no 2 versions. There's basically the same core version. However, the main feature of the 5.0 is this time only an Enterprise Edition only feature. And that's why we only called the Enterprise Edition 5.0. However, the core is completely the same in both systems, both editions, so both versions. The 4.7 and the 5.0 will always get released in patch releases at the same time because we draw them from a single source code repository. Okay, what are the common features of the 4.7 5.0? Last year there was some controversy about some legal compliances. We had the European Union cookie law, we had the German buttonlösung. All that kind of stuff needs to be implemented. We've done that. And we also started making larger architectural changes in a way that we're going to continue in the next couple of years to make a more modular, scalable system. Okay, let's start with the stuff which is not so technical, but important anyway, legal compliance. We've made it clearly visible in the front end. It's very simple. The user clicks one time, yes, I accept or don't accept. If a shop owner does not want this behavior, you can disable it in the admin. A little bit more tricky, the German buttonlösung. Not tricky in a technical way, but tricky in the legal way. There were a lot of fuzzy statements what it should be, and well, there were several discussions what exactly is be part of it or not, what is the correct way of showing what the user needs to see. What we have done is that what we think that, and we checked it of course with legal experts, what the minimum standard is of this law is now implemented by default. You can have attributes to your products which are specific for your shop. You can actually make sure that those, something like these, are actually shown in the front end and of course also in the checkout. And for that you can configure them per attribute in the admin. This is an important thing because we cannot know which attributes you have which are critical to your product. It changes per product. And of course in checkout it will be shown. Very simple solution, very effective. How am I doing time? Despite that people came 10 minutes late, I'm still doing good in time. Architecture changes. Here's get a bit more interesting. We started to split up the bootstrapping so that you get a better startup. We'll go into details later. We did some database changes, which is also more for the future. And we started to clean up the file structure and the way the application by itself is organized. Then we also introduced widgets for both versions. However, the main reason for it is actually for the reverse proxy feature, where this widgets actually get used in a more interesting way. Okay, let's go through it. Bootstrap, also very simple. It's basically now instead of a one-liner, a two-liner. It's not more than this. There's some side effects, nice side effects. You can now also make a module of the session and also of the config class. Timestamp. There have been cases where people want to have a timestamp. When was the last time that a database was actually, a database record was actually changed or not? We've now have added in every single table in the database a timestamp, which by default always gets updated. This makes traceability also and debugging a bit easier. The only thing you should know as writing as a module writer, you don't need to update those columns by yourself. It will automatically be done by MySQL, but you cannot add a column like that to your table yourself anymore. So as a module writer, don't add a timestamp column with this automatic feature of MySQL, because MySQL can only have one column per table. File structure. From pretty simple, it gets a bit more complex, but it's now more clearly separated. And actually, now stuff actually get named for what they are, which in older time was not always the case. We have cleaned up the controllers. We had duplicated code in views and components and so on. They are now not duplicated anymore. We made them non-redundant. And for that, we just split up a lot of stuff. Okay, widgets. Widgets is nothing more than actually making parts of the page as separate units. They get separately generated, and in case of a non-reverse proxy configuration, it gets generated all in one go on the lift in one go. The interesting part, however, that each of these can be separated, cached or non-cached by a reverse proxy like Varnish. And with that, you can get a really great speed, upgrade, how would you put it, and scalability, because you can make the shop only generate that part which actually changed. We will have two developers explain several of these features one by one, and therefore I will not go too much in detail in here. Module events. We've started to introduce module events. In the metadata, you can now define actions, actually callbacks, for your module. What will happen if this module gets activated or deactivated? In future versions of the shop, this events area will get more events which your module can register callbacks for, so also for installation and deinstallation, and so that your module can get in a clear, installable way. And actually that the admin, the shop itself, can completely install your module without the shop user doing manual stuff in there anymore. One little thing. If you use this and you think it's not working, please pay attention to this part. Your classes must be declared in the metadata. If you don't do it, it seems to be not working. So declare your class in the metadata. iLoad option, yes. This is why we called the Enterprise Edition 5.0 the 5.0 and Community and Professional Edition not 5.0. We put a lot of effort in having a master-slave architecture, the reverse proxy, and for that we also created a new cache manager in the shop to actually handle this. And that feature of the cache manager, which will grow a lot in the future, is that it will not purge cache by lifetime. It's not an automatically purging, but will invalidate at the moment that the data gets invalid. So it's not a passive caching where you just declare anything with 1 hour, 2 days, or whatever lifetime. And if it gets changed the data, it still shows the old data. No, the shop actually flushes the data after it gets changed, so that immediately you get the correct data. Okay. Short overview for people who don't know that. Master-slave is about scalability of the performance of your database subsystem, let me call it that way. Afterwards, there will be a developer explain it in a bit more detail. Caching system, or in this case, the main feature, the reverse proxy or varnish. At this moment, we just support varnish. The idea is to later also support other reverse proxies. I mean, Nginx also have a reverse proxy capability. So it's not just varnish, it can be a reverse proxy. The important thing to know here actually is that if you have a reverse proxy, your shop is not being called if it is served out of this proxy. And that can be a bit tricky, because if you have changed data, how it should get into the cache. All that will also be explained also in a minute or so. Last but not least, we have an unconference tomorrow. We have a lot of our developers here today and tomorrow, and we hope that a lot of people come. And all these features that I've addressed now and will be a little bit more in detail now straight away, you can get more sessions about it in unconference. So if you're interested in technical details, want to ask questions, want to have hands-on playing around with it, come tomorrow to the unconference. Okay, that was a short start. Any questions? No? You can also already ask a question today. Okay, then I would like to introduce first, this is my problem. Lithuanian last names are very difficult to pronounce. And where is this nice button, Heike, to start it? Because this one does not have the usual menu.
To announce Saulius?
No.
Not Saulius? Okay.
I want to start with Andreas Zilgalis.
Okay, now I know your problem. Okay.
So, please come here. Andreas Zilgalis is a senior developer from our team, and he was one of the persons who were key to merging our system to GitHub. He was not the only one. Large part of the team was added, but he will explain in a little bit more detail what we've done there and what kind of troubles we had and how we nicely solved it.
Thank you, Erik. Hello. Yeah, my name is Andreas Zilgalis. I'm working as a software developer on OXID eSales, and today I would like to talk about OXID eShop and GitHub. So most of you probably heard about Git, about distributed revision control system, and you do recognize GitHub Octocat. But this presentation is not about learning it, it's about how OXID, how to use it for OXID eShop. Well, what now we have is a collection of ideas from customers, and mostly they're related, but not always interacted with each other, and sometimes they are left behind or forgotten for one or another reason. Well, we OXID eShop developers trying to make it possible to implement your ideas. And well, one thing about Git, I've seen somewhere written about Git that it provides cheap branching, because creating a branch and creating a branch and merging is so easy and in Git and quick. And in our case, we can say it's cheap idea branching. With the Git, we can. It's not about amount, or it's about more quality and relation to your ideas, and it's easy to manage and let's say branch it and implement them together. When customers have new ideas, sometimes they provide with the implemented code, but we can't integrate it right away because it has to fit with the code what is there, and that code may change since the implementation was provided, and it needs to be tested. And how about if new functionality can be suggested in such a way that it's like one click away for integrating it, and it already fits with the code. And last but not least, we OXID eShop developers want to be get closer to customers and help you with implementing ideas, and we can give advices about it, and we can make it more like social coding. And why community would want it? Well, sharing your ideas and between each other and reusing the code, it will make it social coding. There are some bugs with higher priority than the others, and sometimes you just have to wait for a new release. But when the code is fixed and it's already in GitHub, you just can grab it. Or when you know how to fix a bug, you can just fix it by yourselves and share it. And this way, you will contribute. Working, you will get more experience and faster experience in this way, and you will, when you're working virtually next to OXID eShop developers. And of course, you will get a credit for your contributions. You will be in the list of those who made OXID eShop better. And you will be part of OXID in this way by contributing. There are two ways to store source code on GitHub. One of them is public repository, and which makes it easy to share with everybody and contribute. And we are gonna use it we are using it now for us to be able to contribute. But there's some functionality, as you know, on OXID eShop, which is not in Community Edition, and that code will be kept in a private repository. And there was a problem how we can make that code change by contributors or by the developers to appear in both repositories, and we implemented synchronization engine. So whenever the change is made by contributor and contribution is accepted in repository, the patch just gets transferred to source code repository and vice versa. Like I said, there are different editions in the OXID eShop, as well you know it. And those functionalities are different, but there's the same base code, like Erik mentioned. And how we make that change made by OXID eShop developers to get transferred without altering it, and how we can contributors code take it, transfer it inside source code without altering it. So we have implemented edition parsing, which acts as kind of a filter between those editions, and that speeds up the contribution process. So to contribute to OXID eShop code, all you need is to create your account on GitHub, grab a code there, which in GitHub terms fork it, make a fork, write a code, implement your ideas, what you think it's nice to have in OXID eShop, and you can share it. Share it with OXID eShop developers, share it between you as well, other contributors, so it is there available. So contribution process may look like very complex, but there's a flow that we all will have to follow, and accepting your contributions, OXID eShop developers will be strict about it, because there's some things we need to follow. And one of them is there will be an agreement required between OXID and contributors. There will be coding style document available for you. It's every time improving, and we will update it on repository, on contributors repository, and it will be available for you to download it, and you will have to follow it. And if code doesn't fit with coding standards, we are not going to accept contributions. So it's nice to have a coding style at high standards. As well, socializing. On GitHub, you can basically add a comment on someone's contribution, even on a line of code, and this way you can give advices or tell what you think this idea, why it's nice, and you should as well, as a contributor, should mention why you think this contribution is nice to have in OXID eShop. Even project managers can be contributors. It's not about implementing a code or fixing a bug. It's just opening someone's contribution and taking a look at the notes and just provide some ideas about it, or maybe advices. And this way, it will be social coding as well, between project managers and developers and contributors. Yeah, so I'm glad to announce, I'm happy that you were witnesses about that OXID eShop Community Edition went public this morning. Yeah, and it's ready to accept contributions now. We have already 2 forks. Yeah, we already have 7 forks, I think. Just checked it recently. So it spreads. So yeah, like I said, it is ready to accept contributions. And yeah, I hope you have enjoyed my presentations. And if you would like if you like to hear more about it and have questions, you can come tomorrow to a conference. I will be there. And thank you. And if you have any questions now, if you want to ask, don't be shy.
Thank you very much. Okay, then let's have a little bit deeper, in-depth review of SysEleven, how we did it. Well, I will see how you can talk 10 minutes about basically nothing that a module developer needs to do. Good luck.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Linas. I'm OXID Core developer. So, as was said, I will present SysEleven. My topic is it's easy, and Erik said that's nothing to do with this. Okay, we'll start from what it is. So, basically, MySQL SysEleven, what it is a database solution where we can separate the load between replicated servers. Why we need this? We need this for scalability, for performance improvements. How it will look in real life? As you know, basically, more than 90% of the pages just need select data from database. So when we have this master-slave replication, so these 10% of the changing data we can move to master, and all other data that we need to select for our pages, we just can move to slaves. So basically, this is a main idea. So the architectural schema will be like this. We have shop. Part of the request that changes data, writes, updates, or deletes, just we are moving to masters. We have also replicated databases to slaves. When changes go to master, so immediately this data change goes to our slaves. So basically we, on real time, we have changed data on slaves, so we can use it to our, render to our page. If we have more slaves than 1 or 2, we can use load balancer, but this thing is optional. We can live without. So, what we did, what our goals was, to create a tool to make OXID scalable, more scalable than we have before. And our goal was to make it easy to use. Do not do any complicated query checks for update selects or something like that to initiate what is the action or so on. And of course, third one, that this solution should, in most cases, work on existing code. For it's a good thing for already existing code and for all modules that we have in our Exchange system and so on, for all contributors and so on. So, what these questions are probably that you ask me when you want to set up a master slave. So basically, questions can be, what do I need for it? It is what I should customize, what I should configure, and what about code? Should I write it in different way? What query should be, or calls to database, and so on. So answers are following. What you need for master slave? Of course, you need set up a database for master slave MySQL. Just your database, make replication of your database to master and slave. Of course, you need some additional hardware for slaves and so on. Of course, you should update to 5.0 and just configure master slave. And it's easier than you think. Just 2 parameters. In your configuring, you should define your slaves. Simple. They are array with their host names or IPs. And the second one is optional parameter. It's a balance between master and slave. What is this? In some cases, you do not need a lot of slaves. It's just enough one. But somehow, then master will probably be too free for a job, and you can follow just all queries should go to slave, and it can broken or so you can just simply make balance between master and slave, making master a little bit slave. So this point, let's say 25, is a percentage. How many select queries can go to master? Just not a, let's say, best practice or so on. It's just a number that we get from our performance testing, from some demo data. So in your case, it can be 50 or so on. It's depending on your shop, on your data, and so on. So basically, this value can be from 0 to 100. So 0 do not use, and 100 use fully. Or if you don't need it, just don't add this parameter at all. So next one. Transparent slave usage. Basically, if we had code, which I will show later, this code is prepared for slave, but also it easily will go without slave. So basically, when you're writing a code, you don't care about it. It just simply goes everywhere, with master slave or without. So, what about data selection? It's just simple. Basic solution is that we do not analyze queries, is it for selection also or not, but we just made some methods. And for selection, you just need to use select, get all, get one, get row, and so on. And by default, these are methods goes to slave, and you don't care. If you don't have slave, it will go to master. That's simple. In some cases, when there are transactional operations, when you need to do some select, some updates, some deletes, and it should be done on master, all these methods can be switched to go to master. This is additional third parameter false. That's all. Simple. What about data modification? Inserts, deletes, updates. Just use execute. That's all. No any additional parameters. By default, it goes to master. So you can ask, can I use select in this execute? Yes, of course you can. But I recommend do not do it, because it's against these two rules. And probably it's more easy to maintain this code when it's not written in by the rules. So far so simple. And the conclusion is that probably if you follow these simple rules or already follow it by good developing mania, so probably your models and your custom code that we use in your custom shop, it's already prepared for master slave. So basically what is need to do is just set up master slave database replication and add a couple parameters in your config. So that's all. So if you want more details, if there are some more details, you can grab me during the conference. And of course, I'll go into more technical stuff in unconference. So vote. And there are short blog posts on my blog about this master slave replication for modules. So be free, ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So to summarize, you don't need to change anything writing your modules. We made it in 9.5 minutes. We're still good on time, despite Joshua. Next is varnish and widgets. Now there is something to do there, if you want to use it. But we need to look a little bit here and try to change something. Okay, next is varnish and widgets. What I just gave a hint in before, you will now get more detail. And if that's not enough, come again to the unconference. Welcome.
Thank you, Erik. So, hello, my name is Saulius, and today I will present you nice caching system Varnish and widgets, a new logical part of OXID eShop. So, we are living in very fast-moving age. This means that we are very impatient. We lost our ability to be patient. So we need information now, especially when we need some information. And that's why shop need to be very fast. It need to respond immediately. and do not wait seconds or couple seconds to respond. Because if shop waits, if shop needs a couple seconds to respond, then customer go away, he just do not return back, and you lose customers, and of course you lose customers. This means that you lose money. And why even good shop are a bit slow sometimes is because shop servers need to do same work for different users. And that's where Varnish comes in handy. Varnish is a reverse proxy. Basically, it sits between your server and client and tries to cache client's request. And if he calls shop only if he needs, and he do not have this information. One additional thing what he tried to do is to collect calls from a bunch of different users and call shop only once. And when he get result, he returns it to every customer, and of course tries to cache it. So next time he don't even need to go to shop backend. Also, Varnish support load balancing. This means that you can have not one Varnish server, but all farm of Varnish servers by having some servers between eShop and Varnish and other Varnish servers. One of very nice feature about Varnish is how flexible he is with its configuration language. I will show you a simple example. This is all workflow for Varnish. All these states are where your requests go, and you have very nice possibility to attach to any state and to change it if you need it. So if Varnish by default do not fetch your requirements, you can simply take those parts and change it. So a bit in detail about this workflow. In first, there is receive, as every request go to Varnish. So first what Varnish do is take this request, and after that Varnish need to decide what to do with it. Varnish even have possibility to do not do nothing. So he just pipe it directly to some shop backend. For example, if you have shop admin in the same shop server, you maybe want just pipe all requests to shop admin as you do not want to cache those. And if you want to do some interesting stuff with this request, then you go to hash where you form key. And after that, you try to search request in Varnish cache. Actually, Varnish tries to search it in Varnish cache. And there is a tricky part because you can cache not only something you want to cache, but and something you want to Varnish not cache, and would go every time to shop backend. So you have this possibility to cache decision for Varnish to go to shop backend every time. And after that, if Varnish finds some stuff in his cache, he can just return it to customer. And if he not, he can then go to shop backend, grab it, and decide what to do, to cache it or not, and then deliver it to customer. Besides of that, Varnish provide quite few tools for logging. For example, Varnish keys to see if every hit goes to cache or something is going wrong, and a lot of requests go directly to shops. Varnish log to debug Varnish, and some other nice tools like, for example, Varnish Top. One very important thing to mention about this logging, there is a very huge amount of information you get with these tools. That's why Varnish do not provide logging to file by default. So if you want to do some logging, you should write some bash command and log that to file. Otherwise, you just get it directly outputted to your console. Well, Varnish and SSL. Well, I say it just don't work. Why? Because Varnish claims that SSL libraries are pretty bad implemented. And to write library for themselves would cost a lot of effort and basically would not give so much benefit for customers, because what you can do, you can just add additional terminator, which just changed HTTPS request to HTTP, and then you go directly through Varnish, and Varnish still cache every request. At this moment, we would recommend for you to add additional load balancer before Varnish servers. So SSL calls would go directly to shop backends, because now we did not test with SSL terminator, and we are not completely sure how shop would react in this case. But maybe one day we will test this and provide you a solution how to add SSL terminator. To cache a whole page as a one would definitely raise some problems. For example, if there are different parts, like information depending from user, like basket or menu, or some information that change time to time, like article amount, stock amount, or price, then you would get a lot of different pages, which would produce a lot of amount of disk space, and also would lower hit rate. And that's why you want to separate those parts. And STag is something that can help you with that. STag is a simple HTML element which says to caching system that he need to call some page, and it will get rendered result. And this is not something that Varnish invented. STag is something that is provided as a standard for World Wide Web Consortium. It's not approved yet, but some systems already use it. And if you look at first line, this is example from code. When Varnish call or you call shop, you would get HTML page rendered with such asset tags. And from each asset tags, you would get URL, which would let you call shop and get result rendered. A little bit into code. Few things about naming. First, what you get from shop, you get layout, at least we call it like that. It's basic elements with all asset tags in it. And each asset tag is the place, the logical place of shop. And we call it widgets. And widget part that is written in PHP, I would call code widget for simplicity. So this is example how we call widgets in our templates. We wrote a Smarty plugin for it. So you just need to say for Smarty plugin which class to call, which widget class to call. And if you need, add additional parameters. And this plugin would build a tag in your template, rendered, and Varnish would call it and render results. And one thing need to mention that all code widgets have their templates, but not all template widgets have their code widgets yet. Widgets are a really nice possibility to think about shop components-wise, to take logical components part and divide functionality to widgets, like, for example, banner or menu or basket or some other parts. Also, you can divide not just code, not just templates, but also CSS, JavaScript, and all that stuff. One thing I did not mention in my time when I presented this workflow for Varnish was that how we reproduce this caching key. For caching key, we use two parameters. One parameter is URL, address for you called it, and second parameter is called environment key. There is a bunch of parameters which display in this state is shop now. For example, if something is added to basket as for the same page, we would have two different asset tags, one for if something is in basket and one if something is not in basket. Cookies is something that Varnish do not deal by default. By default, Varnish just do not cache at all if cookies are in the request. And that's definitely not what we want to have. We want to cache even if they are cookies, because not always content is different if there are different cookies. So we have a whitelist. We have a whitelist for cookies which came from browser and whitelist for cookies which came from shop. So if some cookies are not in whitelist, they are just deleted and ignored. And shop do not care about them. And these are two methods you need to look to if you have some additional cookies you want to get into shop from browser or to browser from shop. Of course, shop not always would be accessed with Varnish. For example, in this SSL call. So that's where surrogate control. That's why it is. We just say if Varnish is not in between, or in more precisely, we say if Varnish is in between, then please render asset tags. And if there is no Varnish, do not render asset tag. Render all HTML at once, and you will see nice looking shop, even if Varnish is not in between, if someone calls shop server directly. So what are our vision for future? First of all, it's light layout, because every page has a lot of ASCII tags, and some ASCII tag might be different as it has some different parameters. So layout would be executed most times, so we really want to have it light. Also, we want to have component-based widgets. We want that all different components, logical components, would go to widgets. As it helps with caching time, it would help us to reach different caching time, and also would help make layout much, much lighter. And the interesting thing we want to reach is that all of those components would be event-based, would have event-based invalidation. What that means is that article would be, for example, article would be cached for infinity time and would be purged only when it has changed, and basically it's done. What's not done is with data components like CSS and JavaScript, but we hope we will fix this in the future. So I hope you now have some feeling what is Varnish and OXID widgets and why we use them. And if you have questions, how to write a module, I'm offering presentation about it on conference tomorrow. So vote for it. And I will present you how to write simple module with widgets. So thank you for your time. Feel free to ask me questions anytime during the conference or on conference. Thank you.
Thank you. you very much. Now we've seen what we've done. Now we want to see what we've reached with it. This is the presentation I was looking mostly forward, because now we can see did it actually made a difference. Did what we do there with varnish, widgets, master slave, and all that stuff actually made a difference or not? We actually made a promise in 2012 that we wanted to have 4 to 8 times, or 4 to 8 times speed improvements in certain scenarios, especially in enterprise scenarios, where you have an high load and high amount of visitors coming at the same time, high concurrent user count, and so on. To prove that it worked, we wanted to test it. Together with SysEleven, we made a test setup, and I never thought that would happen, but a good hoster can be a disadvantage if you do load testing. We've tried many times to do load testing, and a very good hoster has a very proactive system administration. So as soon as we run into a bottleneck, they gave us more resources. Test gone. We wanted to do in a lifelike situation, so we were in the normal clusters of them, and by the time we did hit some heavy load, it was raising the latency time for other customers, so they immediately limited our resources. Again, goodbye test. But eventually we made it. We made some tests which were reproducible and actually showed something. The test setup is actually one of the smallest kind of what I call an enterprise setup. You have multiple front-end servers. That means in our case 2. We didn't want to exaggerate, so we had 2 front-end servers or application servers, which each had 8 CPU cores. So basically 2 quad-core machines. We had the database, which also had 8 CPU cores, and all of them had 12 gigabytes of RAM. How did we test it? Well, we need to simulate users coming to the shop. And of course, they do something. They just not click around. They also want to order and then do a lot of stuff. For that, we use gmeter. Gmeter is a tool which is specially made for it. You can simulate user behavior. And actually, to get enough load on it, 1 server for gmeter is not enough. So we ended up with 5 gmeter servers to actually be able to create that amount of load. And that's what we did, and that was the occasions where SysEleven then reduced our resources here or gave us suddenly more. Well, anyway, we managed to do load testing. Gmeter, what kind of scenarios did we use? This is either look there or look here, but here it's now too small. One moment. Where the hell was this there? Okay, so the scenario that we tested was almost 80% of anonymous users. They did a lot of different stuff. They were browsing through categories, they were listing pages, so they were searching, looking at the list pages, going to certain products, look at the detail pages, including one variants, because variants are always performance critical. Even go to the HEBs, newsletter registration. We had 1% of new users actually going through the whole user registration. We had 20% of people browsing, but they actually did log on, so they were a known user. They did all the stuff that the anonymous user also did, categories, list pages, detailing, searching, all the stuff a normal user are expected to do. And in total, 1%, the shop had a conversion rate of 1%. That means they were going through the shop, selecting articles, put in the basket, going to checkout, pay for it, and leave. Okay, let's see some comparison. This is actually an old performance testing we did with 4.6, and I want to put it as a kind of, well, reference. We actually started earlier than the 5.0 to put more and more focus on the performance. So we already started to do response time. You could see significant improvements. And also with the transaction rate, which basically doubled compared to the 4.4.8. So whoever is still at the 4.4.8, maybe this is a motivation to at least go to the 4.6, but better still 5.0. Okay, we come back to the previous numbers when we're going to compare them. When we did our first load testing, which we showed to the partners last partner day, the end of 2012, we basically tested on demo data, which is non-realistic. There are not that many clients with a shop with less than 100 articles, right? So we wanted a realistic kind of database. Actually, one client was very nice and gave us an anonymized version of his database, which actually with the whole, well, growing over time, that 4.2 gigabyte data size, about 4 million records over all the tables. It had about 38,000 articles, from which 18,000 were active. That means those non-active were still in there because you still have the order history on and so on. There were about 1,000 active categories. Oh, and there were 30,500 variants. Like I said, variants they make a difference. Okay, so we did then and we did now. And what did we actually show there? We wanted to prove that what we did with demo data showed us the right direction. However, we cannot compare these results with the results from last year because the whole database is different. But we're going to compare them anyway, just for fun's sake. This is what we had with demo data, the average response time for the 4.6.5, which was already like more than 2 times better than the 4.4.8. It suddenly got reduced by almost only to 11% of before with demo data. With a realistic database, it even got a little bit better. And this is a trend we see more and more. The more data you put in the shop, the more profit you have from these features. The caching works more and more to your advantage. If you put it in, as the Germans say, Milchmädchenrechnung. I'm Dutch, I can even don't say it correctly in German. But pretend that this is roughly the same as this, then we see that there is a large improvement possible. There's also one thing you really need to know. This is not my promise that your shop will be like this. This is what we reached. This is heavily dependent on your installation. Your mileage may vary, but we see there is the potential there. Another comparison. We did the 5.0 last year, transaction rate. It was again 4 times faster than the 4.6.5, or better say it could handle more than 4 times more requests per second than the shop before. If you look now, it is 10 times faster. Again, has a lot to do with your data. The more data you have, the higher this will be. Again, Milchmädchenrechnung. I like this picture. So this is, if you are there, who still has 4.4.8? Anybody dare to admit they still have 4.4.8? I know there's at least one customer with 4.4.8. Come on, show yourself. Okay. You can go up to there. Okay, concurrent users. With demo data, we saw we got in the same hardware, you got almost 5 times more of concurrent users before you got into problems. The new one, hey, funny, this is less. Why is this less? Let's have a closer look. It's bigger. Well, in the test we did at that time, we had an average response time of 1.89 seconds with 150 concurrent users. And the 5.0.0 had 3.5 seconds with over 700 concurrent users. Okay, let's see what the 5.0 did. It's less. But now we see The good old 465 actually made a little bit more concurrent users at a ridiculously deteriorating response time. It was really hurting, you could see that. The 505 actually was still under 1 second of load time. I think this is a very nice result. It actually had almost 700 concurrent users. So let's compare that in a graph. This is the one which was actually shown to the parties and had some very nice factors in there. It is 11 times fast. The response time is 11 times better than the 465 without dynamic caching, but still over 9 times faster than the one with dynamic caching. And if you compare to the same response time, how much more concurrent users can handle, on the worst case response time, it was 4.5 times more. On the worst case, the dynamic content caching 465, it was still 3.2. And if you looked at the best response time of the 4.6, it was still even 6.5 times more concurrent users. That is scalability. Now look at here. This is even better, isn't it? Roland already showed it. It's even a bit more than with the 465 non-dynamical cached. It still is about 10 times more than with dynamic caching. And now with a problem. I want to show this one, or better say this one. However, I don't have anything here anymore. So I can only compare, well, if not even that. I've put this in there, but actually the best time of the 465 with dynamic caching is higher than the worst time of the 505. So I cannot really compare it directly. But still, if we pretend more or less, it ends up the same. It was up to 23 times more concurrent users. The summary, yeah, no, why is it this high score? That was not really what I wanted. I think there are actually 2. Something screwed up my slides, probably me. Okay, so the basic conclusion is you have a lot higher performance with a lot less resources than you did with the same shop configuration, same shop basic system than the 465 had or the ones earlier than that. However, your mileage may vary. What you really need to know, even if your exact same database is this was all tested without modules. That means if you have 100 modules, don't expect these results. You need to also watch out for your models, what they do with performance, if they have heavily load on database or not. The shop itself cannot control the performance of the modules. However, we've seen if a module writes correctly, it automatically use master-slave too. Yes, this one's also interesting. The maximum page rate went up to more than 10 times more. And this next slide, I was not even sure if I wanted to show it or not. But, well, let's do it anyway. On this installation, with only 2 front-end servers and 1 database, we have 140 full page requests per second. And with full page, I really mean everything. The complete page, every picture, everything on it. And we had about a bit over 650 orders an hour. It's only 2 front-end servers. They're not big machines. They are just 8 CPU cores. I think that's a big change compared to what we had before. And this road is not at the end. We just started it. As we already said, heard with the presentation about Varnish, there's still a lot more we can do. We can add more widgets, we can optimize it. There will be possibilities for modules to actually also make their stuff in a widget that can be cached by Varnish. That's what we want to reach. Any questions?
Are these statistics with Varnish in the front or not?
This was with Varnish in front, but if you look actually at the scenario we had with a lot of cases where Varnish could not cache. Because users were logged in, users were inputting information, there were orders done. And if an order is done and an article goes out of stock, you get changes in caching validation. So there was a lot of cases where the shop by principle could not really cache that well.
Are there any without any caching, without
No, because it's not only scaling varnish, because it's also all about all the which is not has a varnish kiss rate. Yeah. With 80%, 78% of anonymous users, which principally could have been cached, but because of the actions by the other users, a lot of times also that cache gets invalidated if an article goes out of stock and so on. So the cache rate was less than 80%, definitely. I think, yeah, you're welcome. This is one point. Caching is a very difficult topic, actually, especially in e-commerce. There's so many data always changing. You cannot even cache price of an article because we have features like you have a price depending on the user group, what you're going to cache there. So there are a lot of issues involved with caching. And that's what I mean. We're only starting on that road. We still have a lot of possibilities to improve the caching. Okay, again, tomorrow on conference, if you want more details of the performance testing, what we did and we did not, we can talk about it. Actually, nobody noticed it, but there was no real statement about master-slave. Actually, there's none of this used master-slave. Why not? Thanks for SysEleven. When we finally reach the bottleneck of the databases, they quickly give us more CPU and more RAM and so we did not reach the saturation point of the master database. We will add that soon to the next version of the performance report. If nobody has any question, then I would like to invite Thomas Lohner, founder of the eCommerce Wanderzirkus and part-time employee of SysEleven. And he will hopefully share some insights on how it's actually what he has seen in the wild with the 5.0. Thank you very much. Welcome, Thomas.
Nein, größer. Genau so. Das geht. Ja. Wie klicke ich weiter? This way? Okay. Hey guys, my name is Thomas. For those of you who don't know me yet, there's plenty of time tonight at the party. For now, just let's get into the performance stuff.
You're a title holder of the last man standing.
Yeah, because you lost last time, but tonight we'll see. Okay, we did some profiling. This is without varnish. It's page load time in the 4.6 in milliseconds, which means that shorter is faster, shorter is better. So as you can see, the OXID 5 is much faster than the OXID 4.6.
That's not a 5.5, is it?
No, it's not. It's yeah, okay. Thank you very much. There's only one tiny thing you have to keep in mind with these figures, and that's the demo shop. What we did is we did the same profiling with real customer shops. Here you can see the lucky guy. Dirk, I think you're here, right? There he is. Dirk's the lucky guy because OXID 5 is faster than OXID 4.6. Still without varnish. It's only page load time milliseconds without any caching at all. It's even disabled the OXID dynamic content cache. So here's the poor guy, Till's here too. Bergfreunde, it was slower with OXID 5. So to be honest, Till asked me, Thomas, what should we do? How come that Erik tells me it's 10 times faster, and now we try this out, it's slower. What should we do? And to be honest, I didn't know. Yeah, thanks. Okay. And then we really figured it out. How many OXID core developers are here?
Raise your hand, don't be shy.
Okay. Listen up, guys. You will now learn the truth about the people in this room. They do not use the software you write the way you think. these people invent their whole crazy way of using your code. And I've got some pictures to show to you. So this is what you developers think how people can use OXID. It's a, I don't know if you can see it, it's a Harley. So with me, that means it's a solid brand. You can be proud to own one of these. If you see one other on the road, you give him a wave and you think, nice ride. That's what you think. Then there's, between you and the customer, between you and Till, there's a sales guy. And what does the sales guy think how OXID can be used by the customers? It's like this. No need to explain. And then there's the customer. How will the customer use OXID? It's like this. And there are a few customers, they use OXID even like this. Oh, sorry, one more. So, what's the conclusion? The conclusion is OXID 5 is cool, it's really cool, you should upgrade, trust me, but it's a completely new technology. To be honest, it's two new technologies. It's not new technology, it's a new technology for OXID. This is the first version of OXID with database scaling and the first version of OXID with a full page cache. Who of you guys is already using OXID 5 in production? 2, 6. Okay, no, you're the same shop, right? Okay, so 2, 3 shops are using it in production. Okay, conclusions are upgrade, try it out, it's cool, but don't listen to the sales guy. You will see maybe a performance gain, or maybe you will see a performance loss. But the really important thing is to figure out why it's happening and then fixing this thing and sharing it with the others. These two only figured it out because they shared the results. And then they knew why the one was faster and the other one was slower. So trust me, you have to optimize it and share the results with the others. So next up, caching. Who of you guys is using full page caching in OXID, either the SysEleven Super Cache or OXID Varnish caching? Okay. Let's say a PHP page request, whatever, loads in 500 milliseconds. This means that the same page being delivered from the full page cache will be, the load time will be 10 milliseconds, which is 50 times faster. So again, the sales guy will say, yeah, okay, just turn it on and all your problems are gone. But is it really faster? I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But there's one tiny thing, again, you have to keep in mind. It's only that fast when every page request or every page impression would be a cache hit, which means every page impression has to be delivered out of the cache so that all the shop can be delivered out in 10 milliseconds. But that's not the case at all. By the way, I'm really looking forward to you guys pronouncing this tonight at the party, so maybe you can practice a bit. In the real-life shop, not every page impression is a cache hit. What we see with Babymarkt is there's a cache hit rate of 50%, which means only half of all the requests can be delivered from the cache, and the other half has to go through OXID. This was your question, I think, right? There are 2 other customers. To be honest, I forgot to ask them if I can put their names, so I just have customer A and customer B. We have here one with only 13% and one with 71%. So what does this say? What cache hit rate should you, or what cache hit rate will your shop have? Right, you cannot say. Every shop will have an individual cache hit rate, and this is what will make the performance better or worse. I think that was your question, right? Okay, so what are reasons for a cache miss? TTL expired. TTL means that every object in the cache, every page, has a time to live while it's valid and can be delivered from the cache. When this time ends up, then the request has to go through OXID and it will come to the cache again. The cache can be too small, you can have too many URLs, I don't have to, you can read faster than I. So, I call this passive caching or active caching. Let's say the old caching version was that every page had a time to live and it's valid as long as this time is not expired. And when it's expired, then it has to be rebuilt in the cache. I call this passive caching. Active caching would mean that the application knows that a page has changed in the backend and it could purge only this one page from the cache and leave all the others in the cache. This is active caching. You see the first one in, this is messed up. PowerPoint, I guess. Okay. You see the first one in most of Magento Varnish modules, and you see the second one in OXID 5, but only sort of. I think in OXID 5, it's on article save, right? On article save, the OXID cache manager will try to figure out on which URLs this article which has changed was visible. And it's easy if the article is visible on the home page. It's easy for the category page. It's easy for the article detail page. But what about searches or filters or whatever? You can't calculate this. So these guys are really doing a hard job. They are trying to do that, but it's still not ready. Conclusion again, upgrade, share your experiences. Every shop will have either a performance gain or a performance loss. But this has absolutely nothing to do with OXID 4.6 or OXID 5 or anything. We here have really an awesome new technology in OXID, and we all have to figure out what the best way is to utilize this new technology, the Varnish stuff and the MySQL read-write splitting stuff. We all together have to figure out what the best way is of using, so try it out, share the results, and then the next version will be even better, and maybe 5.1 or whatever will have full active caching. Yeah, that's it. See you tonight at the party.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I really liked one part of the conclusion. Share your experiences. Yes, that's the whole point. You're invited here to come to me, please. The point is, if I don't know what's happening in your shop, I cannot learn from it. And that's also for my team. What we've done in the past regularly with SysEleven, I mean, it's not a coincidence we do load testing with SysEleven. It actually started out from a long time ago where we just say, hey, there's a need for us to share experiences. They wanted to learn more how to optimize the shop in project configurations. We want to learn more what's actually happening in our shop in live situations. So we started sharing our experiences. And several of those improvements, which rippled through the 4.4.8 up to the 4.6.5, all those numbers, are actually results of this kind of workshops. Together we found hotspots, we fixed them. So without actually large architectural changes, from the 4.4 to the 4.6 was also already a factor of 2 by sharing our experiences. So please cooperate, join us, it's also for your own benefit. The ones who share with me and show what their bottlenecks is have the very big advantage that probably the first bottle fix was going to be fixed next time. So really, yes, you're all invited to share your experiences. Yeah, in that sense, are there any more questions? No? Ah, one.
Why do you choose use I in comparison to Ajax request?
basically, we felt with ACI that it's easy to implement and there's less impact on the templates. I mean, nobody's using our source theme 100% as a copy. Everybody adapts it and changes it. So if you put Ajax requests in there a lot, I think it would be a lot more impact for the shop owners, because they need to integrate it all in their templates too.
But it's easier to check if the request must be made or if not.
From in certain situations, yes, absolutely, but not in all situations. That's why I also try to do this active state. Actually, the shop knows before the client knows if data is changed. So we try to implement as far as possible this what's dubbed here as active caching. We still have a lot which we can improve there, and the goal is actually to, at some point in time, have a completely just-in-time invalidation of caches, or even in some cases automatic lead generation before even the next request is there. But that is a long way to go, but we're going that way. In general, caching, especially if you want to be as ambitious or as crazy as we are to try this active caching, because this makes it a lot more complicated. It still is, I think, the most promising way, and that's why we went that way. But we knew it would not be done in one release. Okay, other questions? Then have one other thing that has nothing to do with 5.0. Many of you know me already for a long time and know my role in OXID. And nobody wonders that my title says software architect, and most of you deal with me in completely different roles. I've talked with partners about features. I'm even involved in doing offers to partners for whatever. Did a lot of product ownership for several of our products. And that was a bit much. So I'm very happy to announce that since short time, we have a product owner dedicated for the eShop platform, and we're gonna professionalize our requirements engineering, and that if you have feature requests or if you're a stakeholder, you're not gonna talk with me anymore. You're gonna talk with somebody who's dedicated. And why I'm saying this here, so reach a lot of people. You can still contact me, but don't be surprised if I then now turn to somebody else. I will not put the person up front of here. She's only here for 2 months with us. You still need to get to know all our products. So it will be a smooth transition, but it will take a little bit of time. So, there she is. Welcome, Ina. And admittedly, she will do requirement engineering and that stuff a lot better than I did, as kind of part-time job, doing all the other stuff. And for my benefit is I get a lot more time for the stuff I should be doing. Okay, we are actually 3 minutes early. Somebody needs to have a very smart question. Nobody smart question? Yes. Very good question. The benefit is that you don't need 2 types of templates, one for varnish and one for not varnish. You can actually turn on and off varnish without changing all your templates. The widgets, if you have non-varnish, will get generated all together. Every little widget is being generated. So one advantage is that it is transparent user. So if you start with the 4.7 CE and you upgrade and then you get on this varnish, you don't need to change anything to your templates. It's already varnish capable. Good question. Second thing is, to add to that, is that by having widgets, it's also easier for partners to customize stuff for varnish also. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start thinking about GUI components, that can be combined and be reused. And that's something that is part of the widget idea, that the widget can be cached is just a nice side effect. An important one, but not, it's a side effect.
Yes. Other smart questions?
Who will be last man standing tonight?
Probably you. Yeah, Yoshia, where you are? I just want to punish you again. Yes, one question.
What if I have a customer with OXID 463 with varnish caches up front?
That's a customized solution then of his.
Is there a possibility to invalidate the varnish cache from OXID 4?
Not without changing. You need to make change to the core system actually, or write a very smart module. But
You estimate for such a change?
yeah, I'm not going to make that kind of estimations. Depends heavily also what other modules you already have installed, what kind of features you actually have configured or not. I think from all the other people I've seen out there using customized varnish themselves, none of them have all the features turned on of the shop. Most of them have turned some stuff off anyway and don't need to take care about it. When we implement varnish, we need to take care of everything because we don't know what this shop owner will activate for features and what this shop owner will take. So those two estimations will be different anyway. So last chance for smart questions. Heike always has smart questions. Coffee is downstairs. Thank you very much then.